We believe in one God, the Father Almighty, maker of heaven and earth, and of all things visible and invisible. When the creed begins with, "We believe in one God, the Father Almighty," it's not starting with a sentimental image of fatherhood. It's beginning with a profound theological claim. In the language of the early church, Father, or, in Greek, pater, designates God as the eternal origin of the Son. That word origin doesn't mean there was a time when the Son didn't exist. Rather, it points to an eternal relationship. The Father is the begetter, the Son, the only begotten. Monogenes. Not to be confused as a family metaphor, it's a conceptual definition of how God is in himself. It's a way of naming God's inner life. The Father is arche, the ultimate source of divine life itself. And when the creed adds Almighty, in Greek, pantocrator, it's saying something equally sweeping. The word is built from pas, meaning all, and kratos, meaning power, might, or dominion. Put together, it's the one who holds all things, the one who exercises power over everything. So in just 2 words, Father Almighty. The creed identifies the first person of the Trinity as both the eternal begetter of the Son and the sovereign ruler over all creation. Nothing in heaven or on earth, nothing visible or invisible, exists outside his sustaining authority. It's a title that speaks at once of intimacy and absolute sovereignty, a relationship within God, and a relationship to all that God has made. When the creed calls the Father the maker of heaven and earth, it's doing more than making a pleasant statement about God's creativity. It's staking a claim in a theological battlefield. In the early centuries of the Church, one of the most pressing challenges came from Gnostic and Platonic dualisms. Many Gnostics and Middle Platonists believed that the physical world, the stuff we can see, touch, and smell, was either a mistake or a trap. In their view, the highest God, pure and spiritual, would never get his hands dirty making matter. Instead, they said, the world was fashioned by a lesser being, a demiurge, sometimes pictured as ignorant, sometimes even as hostile to humanity. In this scheme, the material world was something to escape, not to cherish. The creed flatly rejects this. By naming the Father, the same Father who eternally begets the Son, as the maker of both heaven and earth, it closes the door on any split between a good spiritual realm and an evil material realm. The creator of the stars and the creator of the soil is one and the same. And here's the key. This is the very God revealed in Jesus Christ. In other words, the God who took on flesh is the same God who called all matter into being and declared it good. There's a second controversy hidden inside that simple word, maker. This one has to do with the relationship between the Father and the Son. In the 4th century, Arius, a Christian bishop, and his followers taught that the Son was not eternal, but a creature, exalted above all others, yes, but still made by God. In their telling, the Father created through the Son, using him as a kind of intermediate craftsman, but not as an equal. The problem here is about the very being of God. If the Son is a creature, then the work of creation starts with someone less than God himself, and the intimacy between Creator and creation is broken. The Creed answers this by affirming that the Father, Son, and Spirit share in the work of creation without any inequality in their divine nature. When the Creed calls the Father Maker, it's not fencing off creation as the Father's solo project. It's using maker here in the sense of origin, the Father as the eternal source from whom the Son is begotten and from whom the Spirit proceeds. In the unity of their divine being, all 3 persons act together in creation. So while this line names the Father as maker, it's not a statement about him working alone. It's a reminder that creation flows from the one undivided will of the triune God. To really feel the force of the Creed's words, we need to step for a moment into the world of Greek philosophy, because the term maker carried very different baggage there. In classical Greek, the verb poiein, to make, or to bring forth, could apply to material and immaterial things alike. Plato uses it for poets in the Republic, calling them makers of images. And in his dialogue Timaeus, he gives us the famous picture of the demiurgos, the craftsman of the cosmos. Now here's the key. In Plato's telling, the demiurgos is benevolent. He looks to the eternal forms, the perfect patterns of all things, and then shapes the cosmos accordingly. But, and this is a big but, he does not create matter itself. For Plato, matter is already there from the start. It is co-primordial with the highest reality, the good or the one. The craftsman's role is to impose order on this raw material, much like a potter shaping clay that has always existed. And this is where Christian teaching marks a dramatic break. The Creed's confession that the Father is maker of heaven and earth is not just about ordering what's already there. It's about bringing all things into being from nothing. Even matter itself is a gift of God's will, not an eternal companion to Him. For Christians, there is no rival principle standing alongside God from all eternity. The God revealed in Jesus Christ is not just a shaper of the cosmos, but its sole originator of both the patterns and the stuff they inhabit. This is why that simple word maker is a theological earthquake. It tells us that the world, in all its physicality, isn't a second-class reality reluctantly tolerated by the divine. It's the deliberate handiwork of the Father, coming into existence because He wanted it to be. When the Creed calls the Father Almighty, it's drawing a sharp line between the Christian God and every other divine system on offer in the ancient world. In the Greco-Roman pantheon, power was scattered. One God ruled the sea, another the sky, another the underworld. Each reigned over a limited domain and often worked at cross purposes with the others. Divine authority was fragmented, and no single deity held universal sway. By saying Almighty, the Creed makes a bold countercultural claim. There is one God, and His sovereignty knows no boundaries. There is no corner of heaven, no hidden realm of earth, no unseen dimension beyond His reach. Every power, every authority, every reality, visible or invisible, falls under His rule. This word also speaks directly against Gnostic systems, where the high God was pictured as remote, aloof, and uninvolved in the messy particulars of the material world. In those systems, the supreme deity kept His distance, leaving lesser beings to do the actual work in the cosmos. But the Creed's Almighty is not distant. His power is not a cold, abstract force. It is active, present, and sustaining. He governs not from the edge of reality, but from within it, holding all things together in His hands. So Almighty is not just a statement about quantity of power, it's about the quality of that power, unified, universal, and intimately engaged with the world He made. If you were a Greek philosopher hearing the word Father applied to God, it wouldn't sound strange. In Stoicism, Zeus was often called the father of humanity. In Platonism, Plato's Timaeus even describes the demiurgos, the cosmic craftsman, as the father of the cosmos. But here's the thing. In those settings, father meant something quite different from what the Creed is saying. In the ancient philosophical world, calling a deity father was either cosmogonic, a way of saying, this God started the world, or metaphorical, describing the God as a moral guide, teacher, or patron. It was about origin or guidance, but always in terms of the God's relationship to the world. The Creed turns that on its head. It says that God is Father not primarily because He created the world, but because He eternally begets the Son. This is a relationship that exists entirely within God's own life, an eternal, intra-divine reality that has nothing to do with creation's timeline. In other words, God would still be Father, even if nothing else existed, because His fatherhood is defined first by His relation to the Son, not by His relation to us. That's a subtle but seismic shift. The ancient world thought of divine fatherhood in terms of the cosmos. The creed roots it in eternity. Creation is the overflow of that eternal Father-Son relationship, not the reason for it.